Tonight, we have some clarity, Canes fans, of exactly what the Miami Hurricanes will or won't be playing for as they head to the icy environs of Pittsburgh this weekend to close out the regular season against the Pitt Panthers. Miami was ranked 12th by the College Football Playoff Committee on Tuesday night, a ranking that just came out of a few moments ago, which is up one spot from last week. That means either way, honestly, there was still work left to do up at Pittsburgh this weekend, and style points will very much be on the agenda against a Pitt team that is not going to be easy to put style points on. Pitt played very well last week against Georgia Tech and is going to be highly motivated for this game on Saturday at Heinz Field against Miami. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes are coming off a 34-17 victory at Virginia Tech. There was a mix of good and bad, if we're honest. Virginia Tech did a lot of really good things from their standpoint at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, rushing the football, and also defending the Miami's running game. And the Canes winning by 17 with that late touchdown pass to Malachi Toney. I guess you can't say it wasn't a favorable result because the committee did raise them up one spot tonight. But like I said, Pitt looked really, really, really good against Georgia Tech. This is not going to be an easy game. Temperatures are probably going to be in the 30s on Saturday in Pittsburgh, and the Canes are going to need a lot of mental toughness and I think 4 quarters of offense, which is something that they've struggled to put together this entire season. Hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com. We welcome you once again to the People's Show, CaneSport Live. As usual, this is your show. It's going to be driven by your participation. Many of our guests tonight have pre-registered with us to be on the show. If you want to come on the show and you have not pre-registered, shoot us an email at canesport@yahoo.com. Let me go ahead and put that up at the bottom of the screen, canesport@yahoo.com. Shoot us an email at that address, and we will send you the link to the studio and work to get you on the show. As always, our managing editor at CaneSport, Matt Shodell, will be joining me here in the first hour of the show. Matt's monitoring the college football playoff announcement right now, as well as the press conference that follows it. And once he is ready for us with a full report, he will come join us on the show. But first, let's get to something that looks like it's going to be pretty damn interesting. I'm watching the Mikester Kane rehearsing in his studio, which means he has written a custom song for tonight's show. And let's go to the Mikester Kane now. Mikester,
Gary,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Gary. Are you ready?
We're ready, man. Give it to us.
For a song? All right. Here we go. I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to your swag of the Miami Hurricane football team and to the storms in which we will generate. One word, destruction of our opponents once and for all. Here we go. Miami Hurricane football. Miami Hurricane football. It's going to be a victory down the block with Miami Hurricane football. One more time. Miami Hurricane football. Yeah. Miami Hurricane football, you know it's going to be victory down the block with Miami Hurricane football. Here we go. Sebastian out there on the field. CANES, go Canes. Get the fans riled up for Miami Hurricane football. Here we go. Miami Hurricane football. Right. Miami Hurricane football. That's right. You got it. It's going to be victory down at the Rock. Boom, Miami Hurricane football. Second person running out to the smoke. Here they come. It ain't no joke. Forecast calls combine the weather with Miami Hurricane football. One more time, running through out of the smoke. Here they come. It ain't no joke. Forecast calls violent weather with Miami Hurricane football. Oh, yeah. Miami Hurricane football. That's right. Miami Hurricane football. It's going to be a victory down at the rock with Miami Hurricane football. One more time. Miami Hurricane football. That's right. Miami Hurricane football. It's true. It's going to be a victory down at the rock with Miami Hurricane football.
Woo!
Yeah. Let's go.
Yes,
C-A-N-E-S. Go Canes.
That was awesome, Mike Kane.
There you go, Gary.
How much
I got
work?
blisters on my fingers. Woo.
How much work went into that one?
What's that?
How much work went into writing that song?
A lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work. A lot of work. But I did it. I pulled through. And I'll tell you, they got to pull through this Saturday. They got to give it everything they got. They got to throw everything but the kitchen sink at Pittsburgh, because I'll tell you, Pittsburgh's going to come on out, and they're going to come out wailing. So we got to get ready. So they got to be ready.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think Pittsburgh is highly, but listen, Miami's highly motivated too. I mean, it's, the committee moved them up into striking distance tonight.
Yeah.
Now they're right there. BYU is probably going to lose to Texas Tech in 2 weeks, and that'll drop them below Miami. I mean, it's right there for them to get into this thing, and they
gotta want it, Gary. They gotta want it.
Business at Pittsburgh.
They gotta want it, Gary. They gotta want it. Offensively, I'm talking coaches all the way down. They gotta want it. Trick plays, open up the playbook. Like I said, just throw everything but the kitchen sink at them. At Pittsburgh.
What did you think of the Virginia Tech game?
Well, it wasn't a blowout, but it was kind of a blowout. It was sort of a blowout. I mean, 34 to 17. That was the same score as the 2001 national championship. That was the same score. So exactly the same score, 34-17 over Nebraska. Yeah.
Huh. You have a great recall.
Well, of course I do. Yeah, of course I do. Yep. Yeah. So, if they could beat Pittsburgh by the same score, maybe even better, that would be great. That would make a statement. They kind of need a statement win. This is it. They got to really push it. They got to really just go. Keep their foot on the gas and don't let up, especially on offense. I mean, defensively, I think they're doing okay. How are we doing as far as injuries go?
Injuries are great. They're getting healthier than ever. It's
what's his name? Daniels. Is he back in? Is he ready to go? Is he full go?
Supposed to be ready to. I believe everyone else is ready to go for this weekend. So that's just in the nick of time.
So we got all the starters are back and ready to go. That's what matters, because we're going to need it. We're going to need it. So, All
right, Mike Stirwell, listen, if they win in Pittsburgh up there in the cold environs, I'm expecting a new song next Tuesday night.
All right, don't press your luck, but hey, I'll write another song. I'll see what I can do. It might not be right away, but I'll see what I can do. What did you think of it, Gary? Did you like it? I mean, it's rocking,
I thought it was great.
I wonder how everybody else is going to think.
We'll have to see.
All the other fans.
I'm sure we'll get some reviews as the night goes forward.
Oh yeah, I'm anxious to kind of see that. But hey, Kane, shout out to you, my man. If you're around, I don't know.
He was around. He must have had to go back to work for a few minutes. He'll be here.
Okay.
He'll be back. Yeah.
All right, Gary. Well, listen, let me let you go so that other people can get on the show. I know they're anxious to, and probably anxious to say, Hey, that Mike's okay, boy. He really got us off on a strong foot. Let's
You
keep
did.
it going.
You absolutely did. So thank you.
All right, bud.
All right,
Take
Mike.
care.
All right. In the meantime, while the Mikester was entertaining us with his musical genius there, we had an invader from Utah come on the show, and he said that the garbage time TD on 4th down against Virginia Tech will be viewed as a strike against Miami in the eyes of the committee. Utah Jim, I guess you were wrong, buddy. And a few moments later, but it's not bullshit, okay? It's not bullshit at all because Utah doesn't have a quality victory on its slate. And the committee is finally starting to do what they should have done from the beginning and acknowledging the fact that Miami's 2 losses were very close, one play games without question against Louisville and SMU, the SMU game in overtime. I'm sure that the ACC is pushing hard behind the scenes for Miami, quite honestly. And nobody will discuss that, and nor should they. But the ACC knows that their officials were absolutely horrific up there in Dallas a few weeks ago. And there were several game-shaping calls that went against Miami in that game, or calls that were not made that should have been made, including on the interception in overtime, which should have been defensive holding at worst, which would have given Miami a 1st and goal instead of an interception. And, we'll assume that Miami would have scored a touchdown there, and that game could have gone totally different. Now, instead of knowing that they're pretty much beat, the Miami defense would have been fighting its what's off to preserve a lead in overtime. And that game absolutely could have played out totally differently. And the people in the ACC office, they know this. And that wasn't the only problem in that game. So I'm guessing that the ACC is pushing very, very hard behind the scenes to get Miami in as an at-large second team, because there should be a conviction that Miami deserves to be in the top 12 this year. Utah did not. So I'm sure they're upset that they dropped below Miami in the ranking, and are very likely, as long as Miami doesn't mess up on Saturday in Pittsburgh, which is not a given at all. I mean, that is not likely to be an easy game. But Utah would probably be the first out or second out, depending on how the rankings go. Vanderbilt is beneath Miami now. That was also a very significant thing, because that means that they're not sitting there in a hurry to proclaim 6 SEC teams to be playoff teams, nor should they. The teams directly ahead of Miami, BYU, is likely to lose the championship game to Texas Tech. Okay, if BYU were to upset Texas Tech and nobody else loses, that's going to complicate things for the Hurricanes. But that's something that'll evolve over the next couple weeks. But Alabama is another one that's a little interesting. Just because they lost to Florida State. But they got a game against Auburn this week. We'll see what happens. But is getting benefit of the doubt because they have 4 top 25 victories, which I believe is the most in college football. And even though they took the loss to Florida State, when you have 4 victories in the top 25, you kind of deserve to get the benefit of the doubt there. J.R. Barr here is saying that the committee is full of shit. Any excuse to ignore the head-to-head matchup in favor of Notre Dame and the SEC. Look, Notre Dame put 70 points up on the board against Syracuse. Okay, like that is a style point. I mean, we're all homers, okay? We all want to see Miami make the college football playoff, get the benefit of the doubt. But you have to sometimes acknowledge that the other guys have done something good. And Notre Dame answered the bell and put 70 points up, and they're sitting at number 9 in the ranking. They're going to make the playoff. Okay, Notre Dame is making the playoff. Okay, so it's never going to get to most likely never going to get to where the committee is weighing Miami, Notre Dame, unless it's for a seeding. Okay. And that would determine who you play. But I don't see Notre Dame getting bumped out of this playoff. You know, they've played pretty darn well here for a couple months, and you know, probably deserve to be in there, quite frankly. You got to hope Miami and Notre Dame are both in the playoff. Live Boy 11 says thinks the Canes get in as long as they beat Pitt. I agree. I agree. Now, G Nice is pointing out that no one on the committee is saying Syracuse played a walk-on against Notre Dame, but not against Miami. Doesn't matter, man. They put up 70 points on the Syracuse defense. You know, that's a statement. It's a statement. It's a style point. Give them credit. They responded. Miami gets a chance to respond on Saturday. They had a chance to respond last Saturday. I thought they responded, but because Virginia Tech was so good at the line of scrimmage, they were not able to put an exclamation point on the victory. And not that it really would have mattered that much, because I'm not sure. Maybe the committee would have put them ahead of BYU this week, but they're not under pressure to do that because that's going to work itself out because BYU plays Texas Tech. And even though championship games aren't supposed to hurt you, I think that's a first-round playoff game for BYU. Let's be honest. I don't think a 3-loss BYU is going to stay ahead of Miami after losing to Texas Tech. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. A bunch of people commenting on the Meister Canes opening music set. Shodell will be here shortly, David. He's just monitoring the college football playoff press conference to see what they say about the Canes. All right, let's go out to let's shake it up a little bit. I know Greg's waiting, but I can't put Greg on until Matt's here. Sebastian's holding up signs. Let's go to him. We had one game, one victory, college football berth, all work out in the end. Can't argue with that, Sebastian.
Yeah, that's all they have to do. You know, all this shenanigans, all this additional conversation and talk. My family's laughing at me. You know, this is my hobby.
Oh, your parents are watching your TV appearance there?
Oh no, there they go.
Where is she? Hi, Mom. Hey, he is one. He should have had a career in television.
Let me take my AirPods. You want to take my AirPods?
That's fine. Keep going.
Yeah, they're just lagging on me. But no, I'm just we just gotta win. You know, I don't think we need to focus on anything else. We just need to win. Don't make the game any bigger than what it is. I just hope we don't beat ourselves. Beating ourselves is personal foul, penalties, you know, that jawing back and forth. I saw a lot of that when they were playing against Virginia Tech. That's just like being baited. You know what I mean? We're just going to take you off your game. Trust.
You seem a little nervous. Sebastian, you seem a little nervous. You're nervous. You're choking. You're usually so eloquent and relaxed, and you're choking in front of your mom.
No, because now they're just ragging on me. But no, it's a game within a game. Just play within yourself. Just play with your composure. Just go out there. Just treat it like a business trip. I love the team's mentality. It's just one game. It's one game, and that's when.
What do you think of the Va Tech game?
You know, the thing I thought about the Virginia Tech game is, on any given year, if you told me that we would go to Blacksburg and we'd beat them by 10, I'll take it. I mean, really. I mean, when we had a 2000 team or 2001 team, you think about when we beat Virginia Tech when we won a national championship. That game got a little tight in the end. But anytime you can go to Blacksburg and you can get a win, I'll take it. And if it's by double digits, I'll take it as well, too. I'm glad they went for that additional touchdown because you're kind of like forced to do that. But I don't know if that's really great sportsmanship. I was never worried about that we were going to lose the game. I just don't want them to make the game any bigger than what it is. Just go out there and play. Don't beat yourself because Pitt is an opportunistic team. if we make those mistakes, we won't earn the victory. And that's the message I would have to the team. Earn it. Just earn it. Just earn it on the field. Don't worry about what the commentators say. Just earn it.
I see you're wearing a sweatshirt. Where's home for you?
Well, I'm in Fairfax, Virginia.
And you're in Virginia? So it's going to be a little cold up there in Pittsburgh this weekend. I think I'm going to have to pack some thermals, man. It's going to be pretty chilly. I didn't see the latest weather report, but the last one I saw yesterday said it was going to be like 20, could be as low as like in the 20s at night up there in Pittsburgh, and then certainly in the 30s during the game. What do you think?
It'll be 40 degrees. I mean, it rained today. I mean, they're going to have to play late season cold weather football, and I always worry about mental toughness. This game I think it's going to be won through the ears, not so much, 3 yards out of dust.
They're talking about a high of 37 on Saturday at Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, it's in the 50s right now. Too bad we couldn't have gotten that draw.
I know. I'm concerned about Jacoby Thomas. I mean, I don't know how bad his injury was. Mario really never. I don't trust his injury report. He's supposed to be okay. He's going to play.
Yep, that's what we've been hearing.
And I think we're going to have C.J. Daniels. I don't know if we're going to need him, but just to have that senior leadership that's on the field, that's what I want to see. I want to see the upperclassmen really earn this victory, because we're playing with a lot of young kids and a lot is on the line, and we're going to need, the leadership from Carson Beck. We're going to need some composure to be able to do it, and I think we'll be fine.
What's your mom saying?
This is my wife. This is my wife. She's
Oh, hello, Mrs. Sebastian. How are you?
I got it. Yeah. Let me take my.
Thank you for loaning him to us every Tuesday night.
Okay, I'm gonna take my AirPods out because. Can you hear me now, Gary?
This is such a show today. We had the Mikester Kane give us a little mini concert. Now we're getting to meet your family. It's Thanksgiving week, man. Why not?
She can tell you how. She can tell you how I'm really obsessed over these last 12 weekends. These 12 weekends.
Gosh. 12 weekends out of the year.
You can't live with them on Saturdays, huh?
No, I don't even try.
What are you making for Thanksgiving?
We're doing a little bit of everything. So fried turkey, ham, stuffing. Yeah, we do a fried turkey instead of a roasted turkey.
That fried turkey. I've always been scared to fry a turkey. I admit it. Like I'm not a wimp by any stretch of the imagination.
It's not for the week. It's not for the week. You got to be ready.
I'm a little scared to get into the fried turkey business.
Yep, got to be ready.
But it sounds like you got a good feast brewing there.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
All right. Well, we thank you for loaning him to us on Tuesday nights. He's a great part of our show. He's a little nervous. He's nervous tonight with you watching him.
I know. He usually goes up to his office. I don't know why he decided he wanted to sit at the kitchen table today.
He is not usually this uptight.
Well, I think he's uptight about the upcoming game, actually.
How about you? Are you a big fan?
No, I'm not. I support Miami, but I went to East Carolina, so ECU. So I, of course, give him a hard time about the ECU win in what was it, 2099?
We're supposed to only think about good things on this show.
So I give him a hard time about that.
That was the night our son was born.
Yeah. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's I went to ECU. That's my team, really, if I'm going to have a college team. But, we're never having conversations about them. So I'm more of an NFL fan.
Gary, are you worried about Saturday's game at all?
100%. Yeah, it's gonna be 33 degrees at kickoff. Pitt's been playing decent football. The only thing that I look at is when Notre Dame was significantly better than them. And if Miami is truly at the Notre Dame level or better, then Miami has to show that they're significantly better on Saturday, 30-degree weather or not. And, I think the coaches are going to have to have a very good game plan, a game plan of the level of what they had against Notre Dame. I think they're going to have to be prepared to play 4 quarters of offense this week and, do a little bit better than what they've been doing on that side of the ball. I mean, we've been good for like two and a half quarters the entire season, and that's not going to be good enough as the degree of difficulty keeps getting elevated here at Pitt potentially on Saturday. And then if they do get in the playoff, I mean, you got to play complete football games. And so, I'm not in the camp that a lot of people are in. Oh my God, Shannon Dawson, he's got to be fired. I mean,
No.
A lot of our fans are very angry about Shannon Dawson. I happen to think Shannon Dawson, 75% of the time is doing pretty damn well. But they only scored 20 and 21 points in the 2 games they lost, and he's got to take ownership of that. And when they play these teams, they got to get in the mid-30s, and it can't be on the last play of the game like it was last week either. I like you look at last week's game. I thought he had a great game plan. We looked phenomenal on offense the entire first half, but then we just kind of got stuck in the mud in the second half. We had only had a few possessions. It was an 8-possession game, which is very low. But a penalty killed them in one possession, and that bad snap where Brockmeyer snapped the ball and Beck wasn't looking killed the other drive. So you can't really blame that on Shannon Dawson, but he needs to come with an A-level game plan this weekend, I believe.
I don't want to take up too much time, but here's what I saw in the game. There were a couple plays where we just kind of beat ourselves. We get a personal foul on a kickoff after we score a touchdown. They go down and score a field goal. We stop them on a 4th and 1, but they call a face mask on us. I mean, to be good on 4th down and to stop them on a 4th and 1 is pretty good. But, those penalties just kind of get to us. Here's what I'm close,
it was close. I'm not sure it was really a face mask.
I don't think it was a face mask too, but those calls have been going against us all year.
They've all been going against us this whole season.
All year long. What I'm concerned about is I don't want to be focused on this narrative, because if I walk out of Pittsburgh with a 3-point win, it's a 3-point win. I mean, we won. I care less about the stop points. At the end of the day, you have to beat the other team, and that's what we need to do. Your record is your record. That's what showed on the field.
The style points are real, though. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if one of these other teams, performs the way Notre Dame performed last week, and Miami slogs around in Pittsburgh, that's not good. You can't leave it to question at this point in the season. You just can't. And they need to go up there. They're touchdown favorites. And they need to go up there and win the game and look good doing it and look like a playoff team. Like, this is, let's look at it this way. This is the first week of the playoffs.
That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it. The way I would look at Miami, I would say, don't wait for anyone else to acknowledge that you're in the college football playoffs. This is our playoff game. This is what a championship team does. This is what a championship team does. I hope you have a good trip coming up here. I hope you don't run into any travel. I think it's going to be a sold out stadium.
I'm not
going to be at the game. No, I'm not going to be at the game. No.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have a pretty good crowd up there. I think we will.
Okay. Well, my wife is saying, but maybe we should go. So
tell your wife thank you. We all love meeting her, and tell her thank her for taking. It's Thanksgiving, so let's thank her for taking such good care of you.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks, Gary.
We'll see you next week. All right, Sebastian. All right, let's see here. Omer Wilson says Matt is right. He's talking about an argument we had on Good Morning CaneSport. The ACC is not a good conference, and here's the thing: like, okay, it's not the SEC. I don't think anybody would say the ACC is as good as the SEC, but you don't get a lot of free passes in this conference. And there's an incredible amount of parity. And as good as we like to think that we are as the Miami Hurricanes, this is still a program that does not have an extraordinary amount of elite talent. And, I'm going to give you an example here because I did some research this week and talked to some different people about this subject. And, I'm looking at the NFL draft projections of the top players on the team. And, you look at let's start with the juniors, okay? Mark Fletcher, Markel Bell, Moten, who else was Mark Fletcher. These guys they need to come back. Like they're not considered high draft picks right now. Okay. Ruben Bain, I mean, he was getting nothing but flowers the first part of the season, but I mean, let's be honest, and I know it's a delicate subject because it's Ruben Bain, but the second half of the season has not been spectacular. I mean, there was a marked difference the way he played the first half of the season up to the Florida State game and how he has played since. And he has 3 sacks this season. Okay. Now remember, I know teams get rid of the ball fast and there's not a lot of opportunities to sack the quarterback. Mesidor, I think, has 7. Okay. That's more than double. So there's the opportunity to get more than 3. Let's be fair. So he's had a good season. I mean, people, he still might be a first round draft pick, but he was elite. Okay. And I know I don't use that word a lot. He was elite at the beginning of the season, and he has not been elite the last, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And I don't know how that's going to impact him when the NFL gets down to the nitty gritty, and a lot will probably depend on his workouts and such. But that's Ruben Bain. Okay. Maui Noah is almost definitely going to be a first round draft pick. He's been consistently good the whole year, but this offensive line has not been dominant as run blockers. And I know Eddie Mack on our CaneSport message boards is probably throwing a parade up and down his block now that I said that, but they really haven't. And, I don't think that we're sitting here saying, oh my God, Maui Noah is a one-off and he's been dominant, but nobody else has. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that Brockmeyer has probably been the weak link, but he's the center. And we spent most of the season arguing about too many runs up the A and B gaps, which is the center. So he can't be that terrible. But, my point is, as great as they have been in pass blocking, they haven't been that great in run blocking. And, I'm looking at, Brockemeyer is probably going to be a free agent. Inez Cooper, I think, is looking at a late round pick, maybe 5th round, something like that. He'll get a shot, but he's not going to be a high draft pick. We already talked about Markel Bell. He has to come back. The left guards, aren't anywhere of any significant status. So the point I'm making is that, and then, I can go on and on, Wesley Basainth is probably looking at about a 5th round pick. Carson Beck is probably looking at somewhere around the 4th round pick. So we don't have an enormous number of elite football players. Mesidor is probably looking at 2nd round, 3rd round, somewhere in there. He's a tweener, he doesn't have prototypical NFL defensive end size, as great of a season as he has played. So the point I'm getting at is, and I know this ruffles feathers because I've been saying this for years, but it's been true for years. We still do not have an enormous amount of elite talent in this program. A guy like a Michael Irvin, back in the day when they had those moments where they were in trouble up at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee, made those big plays and got us out of there with a victory, and we'd go on to win national championships. an Ed Reed making that play at Boston College when the Canes were in a little bit of trouble at Boston College. So the point I'm making is that this is a very good team. The program is in a very good place, but not a ton of elite talent. And when you don't have a lot of elite talent, you are going to have those 5 or 6 games during the course of the season that are going to be coin flip games. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And this is what we've seen this year. We got caught a couple times playing not quite our best. At SMU, some very poor officiating calls contributed to it. And we're sitting here at the end of the season and probably are not going to get into the ACC championship game. But the committee tonight gave Miami a lifeline. And if they can go and take care of business against Pitt on Saturday, there's a strong chance they will be in the playoff. And that's all you can ask for at this point, is an opportunity to go play for a national championship. And that would be a phenomenal end to the season. Most of us before the year, I know myself, Matt, many others, said that this looked to us like a 10-2 football team. If they beat Pittsburgh, they're 10-2. They're in the playoff, which is exactly what we were hoping for at the beginning of the year. It didn't play out exactly how you would have predicted it if you were playing the one-loss game by game, and trying to predict what games they would win and lose. Matt tried that. He said Florida and Louisville. He was right about Louisville, not about Florida. I don't ever try to predict every single game. I mean, that's pointless. That would be phenomenal. And now it's up to the team. You got to show up at Pittsburgh and you got to play a great football game. But this point about the ACC not a good conference, it's a conference with a lot of teams at the same level that are capable of beating each other on a given week. And they usually do take turns beating each other. And the other thing I'll point out is even like the worst team, like Virginia Tech, it does not have a very good record, but they're able to show up at home against Miami and play dominant football at the line of scrimmage. Like most of these teams have something that they do well that can impact a football game. And it creates a lot of closer games and a lot of games where everybody takes turns beating each other. And even like the worst team in the league, which is probably Boston College, is coached by an NFL head coach that can scheme things up and come up with something every now and then to allow them to be competitive in a game. And they almost beat Georgia Tech a few weeks ago. So that's how I feel about the ACC. No, it's not the SEC, but it is a very competitive conference that probably should get a little bit more respect than what it does. All right, we're still waiting for Matt Shodell to come back from the playoff committee press conference. He's been sending me some stuff here. Let's see. He says that Miami was in the same pod with Notre Dame this week, which is kind of interesting because if Miami was in the same pod as Notre Dame, they say they do these rankings by breaking it into pods. If Miami was in the same pod as Notre Dame, why was Notre Dame ranked ahead of Miami? I mean, that's just ludicrous. Okay, I wrote a column about that on CaneSport this morning. Like the game was really played. There is a head-to-head there. So, I'm just going to read Matt's notes verbatim here. As for Canes fans hoping when Miami got in the same grouping with Notre Dame that Miami would get the edge based on the head-to-head win, the committee threw cold water on that. They were compared this week, but compared in the same pool with Alabama and BYU. The committee still feels Notre Dame is a complete team and deserves to be ranked ahead of Alabama, a one-loss BYU, and Miami falls in accordingly. The committee has seen good, consistent play from Miami. Carson Beck, he looks like the Carson Beck in that 5-game win streak. It seems they're back on track. They started the poll at 18, and now they're 12. They are the biggest mover in the last 4 weeks. And I'll tell you what, he's right. I mean, now, should Miami have been 18 to begin with? Absolutely not. That was a ridiculous overreaction to 2 close losses. and making a judgment on SMU and Louisville. And, they screwed up when they did that. But to their credit, and I know some people are probably angry at them tonight, they corrected that. And they've moved Miami up to number 12 now. And that is giving you a pretty good chance of getting into that number 11 spot, where you would go on the road and play number 6, who I believe is Ole Miss. I haven't seen the complete ranking. I'll look it up here in a minute. But that would be a pretty nice little first round game, Miami at Ole Miss. And so I think the committee's doing their job. We may not agree with every decision they make. I certainly don't agree with them putting in Notre Dame ahead of Miami, because you have a head-to-head result. But Notre Dame has earned it, and they put an exclamation point up there for that committee this week, and they do look like a complete team, as Miami has at times this season. All right, let's go out to Adam here. Adam, welcome back to CaneSport Live. How you doing this evening?
Good, Gary. How are you?
Doing good. My throat's getting a little dry from talking too much. I need Matt to come back. I see Matt spiking up, so we'll be in good shape here in a minute. But
quick question. And does the ACC do ref reviews at the end of the year? Because some of those calls in the Virginia Tech game were just awful. The catch, it was 4th and 8. That wasn't a catch. In no way was that a catch. And then they let Virginia Tech run a 4th down 3 times before finally. Is there oversight for the officiating? Because it's been awful.
Of course there is, and it's going to be ugly this year. I mean, it's not just in the Miami games. These refs have been horror shows this entire season.
Well, wasn't there one in Clemson and Duke where they called Clemson for a pass interference, and there is in no way was it pass interference? And then Dabo got fined?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous how bad the officiating is. What happened with our run game against Virginia Tech? It was like we were missing tackles. They were able to get around the
I think they did a good job of scheming it up. I think they, you got to give them credit. They're good at the line of scrimmage. That was obvious. And I think their coaches did a heck of a job on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
We couldn't run the ball. I mean, we averaged 2.5 yards a carry, 2.8 yards a carry.
We had a couple good runs. Pringle had a couple good runs up in there.
A couple of good runs and a lot of bad ones. And I'm going to tell you something else, Adam. We've been talking about the running game. This has been an issue the whole year, to be honest. It's been masked by all the other stuff that's been going on over the course of the season. Miami's longest run from scrimmage, I believe, is still 35 yards by Mark Fletcher against South Florida. 35 yards.
Wow. I could have
been busting long runs this year.
Not even against Bethune? I could have sworn we. Oh, okay. Wow.
I don't think so. But this is with an offensive line that was believed to be. I know who I'm going to make choke right now. They were believed to be elite. I'm not saying they've been elite. They've been elite in pass blocking. Have not been elite in the running game. But they're not big plays in the run game.
Well, no, for all those complaining, I mean, even you look at some of the drops against Virginia Tech. If Bauman hangs on to it, again, that's another touchdown. I mean, the passing offense, at least for most of the game, looked like it was humming. You had Marion was running wide open. You had the beautiful wheel route pass to Pringle for the touchdown. And he's really surprised, Pringle. What have you thought of his ascension throughout the year?
I saw it before the year. I saw it in practice, and but it didn't look like there was going to be room for him to play. But he was patient. He was working scout team the whole year. He'd come over, get a few reps here or there. But to his credit, when he got a real opportunity, he delivered. And mad props to that kid. He's changed the whole picture of the running back room as it looks into next season. And I think Jordan Lyle is going to end up in the portal because of it. They can't take care of everybody. Okay. You can't, you can't take care of Fletcher and Brown and Pringle and JV Mallory coming in. And, you can't take care of 5 or 6 running backs at a time. But there's just not the budgeting for that. So,
Well, aren't they talking about bringing in another running back? This Wisconsin commit,
yeah, if they can get him,
Lassiter,
Latimer, yeah, they will. They'll
Latimer.
bring
Sorry.
him. Yeah, they'll bring him in if they can get him. But I think Jordan Lau is going to be the odd man out and is going to end up in the portal, which is unbelievable. I mean, this is a guy that was a starting running back at the beginning of the season, and can you imagine if he ends up in the transfer portal? I mean, that would be an amazing development, but it could happen.
Okay, and did Josh Moore play at all? I know Upshaw played. Did Josh Moore play?
Very little. It's I'd have to
I know Trader played because he had a big 4th down catch or 3rd and long catch at the end of the game when he did the nice little stop and go, and then he did the nice stiff arm. But did they play a lot, or was it mostly Marion?
I'm looking up the reps right now. Give me about 5 seconds here, and I'll have it on my screen.
Because I know Marion and Tony were the 2 main ones.
Yeah, JoJo Trader got 22 reps.
Okay.
Joshua Moore got 9 reps in the game. And, he's one of the surprises for me, like he's another one, like watching him in practice. I mean, you're thinking, man, this kid's like looks a lot like very Andre Johnson-esque. But he just has not been able to put it all together like JoJo, very similar, once the season began. And
but people forget Andre Johnson, and again, this is a different era. He didn't really burst on the scene till his sophomore year, because I think his freshman year he was behind Wayne and Moss and King and Daryl Jones. So maybe it's the same of him not bursting onto the scene till later on.
Not every freshman is going to be ready to play as a freshman.
Yeah, exactly.
Josh Moore has a lot of ability, and so does JoJo Trader. And I hope they stay with it. I hope they don't panic and go run to the portal or anything stupid like that. I hope they stay with it and can pull it together.
And you said Jacoby Thomas is going to play. It was just like a stinger.
Yeah, I think
with his shoulder.
Yeah, we've been told he's going to be fine.
Okay. And all week, like on different shows, again, this was like PFF and On3. Everybody talks about the weather. Why? Is it just because we're Miami going to Pitt?
It's going to be freaking
Or
cold,
is the weather, do you think, a real thing?
It's a real thing. When you take a team like Miami that's been practicing an 80, 85, 90 degree for the last 6 months, and now they got to go and layer up, because they're gonna have to layer up some.
Yeah.
I mean, so there'll be some of these kids that'll try to tough it out. I'm trying to remember who it was. The last time we went to Pittsburgh that went out in the pregame and was whipped his shirt off and was just saying, this cold doesn't bother me, but 33 degrees is cold.
Yeah.
Okay. And they, a lot of these guys are gonna have to layer up, and that's gonna feel different. They're not gonna be as probably as flexible or whatever as they normally would be. And, your hands are freezing. You got to try to keep your hands warm. Carson Beck said it actually helps the grip of the ball. I don't know about that, but they're going to have to keep they're going to have, with their hands in their pockets a lot and try to stay as warm as possible.
Okay. And a couple other things. One, people fail to realize that if Alabama loses, even against in the SEC title game, they still have 3 losses. And would the committee put in a 3-loss Alabama team?
I don't think so. I don't think they will. I think there'll be too many 2-loss teams that will be sitting right there fighting for a spot. And I don't think they would put them in with 3 losses. I don't. I think at that point, I'm not sure. I'm trying to. Vandy, I think, plays Tennessee this weekend. So I don't know how that they're going to hold up against Tennessee, but there will be teams sitting there that might be on the bubble that would have to get consideration if Alabama has 3 losses.
Okay, and a couple other things. One, is this team taking any different mindset? Because we were in the same exact situation last year, going into the last game against Syracuse, a win and you're in, and we couldn't get it done. Do you see a difference in the mindset from the lessons of last year that we could take into the game on Saturday?
Man, I want to say yes, but I don't. I wouldn't be saying that and believing that. I'm a big believer. Every game stands on its own 2 feet.
Okay.
I've said that many times, and I really believe that. I don't think that what happened at Syracuse has anything to do with what's going to happen at Pittsburgh on Saturday. But listen, it's a playoff game. You have to look at it as a playoff game, and if you're really good enough to be in this thing, then you got to go up there and win this. This is your first round playoff game.
Yeah.
And you got to
Well,
go.
we've been in the playoffs, I've been saying, for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, but this is a real one.
Yeah.
Because it's on the road. You have the mental toughness test of the cold weather and the stakes that are on the line. I mean, obviously, if you lose this game, you're not making any playoff. You're probably going to the Gator Bowl or the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So, yeah, I mean, this is a real playoff game.
Okay. And last thing, outside of this Kennedy kid who they keep talking is going to decommit from Missouri, do you see Miami losing anybody else in the class?
Right
or
now,
is
we
this
don't.
class?
Nope.
So
right
this
now we
class
don't.
is pretty much set in stone.
Pretty much. I mean, you might see them add somebody here late, but we don't think anything's imminent there. And yeah, we think this is what it's going to be.
So UNC's not going to get Mallory or
Don't think so.
Missouri getting Charles or whatever.
Don't think so, but some of these teams are throwing a lot of money out there. So
okay, and Miami's not going to take advantage of like Florida or FSU or even LSU with no coaches trying to.
I don't think there's anybody there that they're really actively trying to flip at this point.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking my call, Gary. Have a great rest of the show.
All right, Adam. Thank you for being part of the show. All right, let's bring in Matt Shodell. It's the Matt Shodell hour now. At some point, we're going to have to let him go to sleep. But, Matt, you have been monitoring the rankings. You've been monitoring the press conference with the explanations of the rankings. Give us an update.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to go on with callers. I still got to edit my story, but I wanted to come on and at least tell everybody the situation, let everyone know. So basically what happened is the good news is Miami moved they're ahead of Utah and Vanderbilt. They moved ahead of Vanderbilt last week. Now they moved ahead of Utah, which obviously almost lost, which that should have happened, right? That's what we expected. That's the good news because, I was telling Gary earlier today, if Miami had been behind Utah or Vanderbilt, like it's over. Neither of those teams are going to conference title games. Utah in particular is not going to lose this week. Vanderbilt might. There's not as much concern now. I was a little concerned if Vanderbilt was 13th, Miami was 12th, that if Vanderbilt beat Tennessee and looked really good and Miami barely won against Pittsburgh, there would be a problem. But 2 spots in between, I think we'll be okay with that. The major issues, and I was just on the conference call with the head honchos from the committee. So Miami finally is in the same pooling, grouping, pod. People use different words. Somebody on the conference call used the word pod, and the committee guy got super mad. He's like, it's not a pod, it's a grouping. Like, whatever. But Miami and Notre Dame were finally in the same grouping. They were in a group of 4. It was Notre Dame, Alabama, BYU, and Miami, and they were deciding how to rank those 4 teams, looking at all 4 of them, because that's what they do. They take 4 teams or 3 teams at a time, and they say, where should we rank these 4 teams against each other? And they decided out of those 4, Miami was the worst, right? Notre Dame was the best out of those 4. That's what they decided. And they were asked about it several different ways. And the way that this the committee chairman, Hunter Yurachek, described it, and the reason for it is he pointed to Miami being inconsistent in the middle of the season and Carson Beck struggling, and that then he starts praising Miami. I on the message board I posted something a few minutes ago about how it's sort of like you take your son and say, good job, son, and you punish him, right? They were trying to make it, trying to say such nice things about Miami. Carson Beck, 80% over the last 3 weeks. He's been amazing. He's back to his form of the first 5 weeks. He's great, but they're the worst team in the pod. They're going to be the last team out, or the last team in, or the first team out. That's where Miami is going to be right now. They need someone to lose, and I'll break that down in a second for you. But basically, what happened is they just feel like Notre Dame's a playoff team. Like they said it over and over again, we feel Notre Dame's a playoff team. We've watched their film. They lost by 3 points to Miami. They lost by 1 point in their other loss to Texas A&M. They are a playoff team, Notre Dame. So Notre Dame will not be getting replaced by Miami. Okay, that fantasy that Gary Ferman had is over. I knew they weren't going to do it.
Well, I talked about that earlier, though. That's fair. You know what, Matt? It's fair. It's
now
not
it's
fair.
Okay, I said they weren't going to do it.
Wait,
I think
time out. It's not fair that they're ahead of Miami. It's fair that they're a playoff team, and I think they're both going to be playoff teams. But and then when it comes down to seeding, I don't personally see how you could put Notre Dame ahead of Miami, but they will.
Quantify why you think they're both going to be playoff teams.
Well, because I think BYU is going to lose, and somebody else could lose too.
BYU loses, it doesn't matter. That's the problem, right? BYU, I don't expect BYU to be in the playoffs ahead of Miami unless BYU wins its conference title game. But they need more than that. Like, that's not even enough.
Well, that puts them at number 11.
So what's that?
That puts them at 11.
Yeah, they need to be 10th or 9th. 11th, you're not in the playoffs. You're the first team out at 11, right? Because there's an ACC champion and a Group of 5 champion. 11, okay, fans don't understand this either. You have to be in the top 10 if you're Miami because they take 5 conference champions, okay? And out of those 5 conference champions, 2 of them are ranked below Miami, okay? So they take 12 teams total. So if you're 10th, then those 2 teams ranked below you are 11th and 12th, right? But if you're ranked 11th, you're out because those 2 teams are going to be in by rule, right? Whether it's whoever, Virginia or whoever it's going to be, SMU or whatever it is, that's in the conference title game that wins that conference title game for the ACC is going to be in, or it'll be 2 Group of 5 champions that are in. But you have to be in the top 10, like period. You have to be in the top 10. 11th doesn't make it, which is the problem, right? So you need Alabama probably to lose this week. The other problem with Alabama, right? Fans are like, oh, well, Alabama's going to lose in the SEC title game, and they might, but the committee showed last year they don't move down teams that lose in conference title games, right? And they don't like to punish teams that are in conference title games. And you understand why, right? Because it's a punishment to be in those games otherwise. Now, they will move you down if you play badly. They will move you down if you don't have a perceived good team. So I could see BYU certainly moving below Miami when Texas Tech beats them. I think that's almost certain to happen. But now if Alabama loses a close SEC title game, do they move from 10 where they are now below Miami at 12? That's what I don't know. That's the big question, right? So they need Alabama to lose. They need Oklahoma to lose or Ole Miss. They were asked a couple of times about Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. Well, and this is crazy, right? Remember Florida State? The committee said Florida State's not going to be in the playoffs because their quarterback isn't playing. They were asked, if Lane Kiffin doesn't coach, that's in your purview, right? That's one of their rules. If a coach or a player aren't around, you can consider that, right? If Lane Kiffin's not coaching this team in the playoffs, will you consider that? And his answer, I'm not even kidding, was we don't have a data point for that, so we can't really consider it. And he's asked, well, what does that mean you don't have a data point? He says, well, we'll never have seen it. We won't have seen them play without the coach, so we don't know what it looks like. With obviously the backdrop being, well, you didn't see FSU. Well, actually, did FSU play without its quarterback? Maybe they did. And no, did they play in the conference title game without their quarterback? I'm trying to remember now. Maybe they did. I can't remember when he got hurt. But anyway, so they're already making excuses for why Ole Miss can be in with no coach. So Oregon loses. I don't think they move below Miami. So you really need, and Notre Dame isn't going to lose to Stanford. So you need Oklahoma or Alabama to probably lose this week. Maybe Alabama loses the conference title game, but now you also have this other wild card, right? They were asked about Michigan. Michigan moved up, I think 3 spots, I believe, to number 15. Miami's number 12. Michigan plays the number 1 team in the country. They're an underdog by 10 and a half points.
Ohio State.
If they beat Ohio State, they're underdogs by 10 and a half points. If they beat Ohio State, are they now a playoff team? That the dude wouldn't answer it. He wouldn't answer whether that moves them ahead of Miami and ahead of Alabama to be in the playoffs, right? But would Michigan move ahead of Miami with 2 losses and just beat Ohio State? I think they would. I don't see how they would not be able to do that, and how they would not do that. I mean, they'd have such an outcry. How is a 2-loss team that's playing so well at the end of the year and just beat the number 1 team in the country, how are they not in the playoffs when you have other 2-loss teams in the playoffs, right? So that would be a major question mark. Not as worried about Texas, really. I know they played number 3 Texas A&M, but they're 16th. I don't know that beating the number 3 team is going to move them ahead of Miami because Miami's playing a Pitt team that's ranked now, right? So I don't think that's a problem. So it's really down to Michigan has to lose. Miami has to look decent. BYU will wait for the conference title game. If they win that, Miami has to be 9th instead of 10th. That would be a disaster. And then Alabama probably has to lose, or Oklahoma has to lose. Like, that's what has to happen. It's down to that, essentially. The other teams aren't going to fall enough. And this is also interesting. They were asked, and the executive director addressed this one, Rich Clark. Not the same guy who used to do the New Year's show. That guy, I think, is deceased. Not Dick Clark, Rich Clark. He was asked about this margin of victory thing, and they always said they don't want teams to feel like they have to blow out opponents for style points, right? So he was asked, why are teams feeling they need to do this? What is the actual rule? What are you guys actually looking at? And what he claims is they look at the entirety of the game, they go over all the film of all the games, and then he said with their strength of schedule metric, margin of victory is taken into account up to 24 points. So I don't understand, because they do look at margin of victory over the entire season also, like, so that all adds up, you know. It's like they are so political and sort of beat around the bush type of people. You know, somebody asked how far up, I'm trying to remember who it was, Texas Tech. They were asked, is Texas Tech at number 5? Would you say, this was what they were asked, would you say they're closer to the top 4 or like the bottom 5, right, being 5th? Like, where do they sort of, you know, are they like right in that group for the top 5? Or are they really more like a 6, 7, 8? Like, there's a big gap, right? That's what they were asked. He says, well, they're close to 4 and they're close to 6.
What?
That was his answer.
Dude, this guy is a horrible spokesman for the committee.
Terrible. And you know why? Because they have no explanations of, they have such a problem trying to rank teams that are in different conferences, playing different opponents that all have 2 losses. So just say it. Just say it's an impossible task. We're doing the best we can. You know, we don't know. I don't know if they're closer to the top 4 or 6. We didn't really look at that. We're just throwing darts against the wall and trying not to have Miami fans, you know, sort of berate us. So, all right, well, let me get back. Let me go finish up this story. But
no, we still need you. No, this is more important.
Oh, for what?
Because we got to clear all this stuff up. We got a lot of people want to hear what you have to say.
Well, you have to edit this and add some stuff in.
So let me ask you a question. So they rank Oklahoma number 8 with 2 losses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Like, is there clarity on who is going to be the team that's going to play Texas A&M in the SEC title game?
I think Alabama is in the SEC title game, isn't it?
Oh, well, that's what I was thinking. So if Alabama loses to Texas A&M, you know, maybe they go with 4 teams from the SEC, and that allows Miami.
This is what I literally just talked about this. I said I don't know if they're going to fall enough. You know, they don't want to punish. If
they lose the SEC title game, they have to drop them out. They can't.
You're still not listening. I said it earlier. They clearly have stated they don't want to punish teams that lose in conference title games just because they were in the games. Now, if they lose badly, look at what they did to SMU last year, right? They let them in anyway. It was a joke. But with Alabama, if they play terribly and they lose by enough points, yeah, they'll drop. If they lose a last-minute game to the number 3 team in the country, they're probably not going to drop at all. They don't do that, right? So a lot of it's going to be how they look. This committee is big on looking at film. How does the team look? And they want to use that as their data point, right? So, yeah, if Alabama looks terrible or suffers a big injury in that game, yeah, Miami will move up. But if it's a close game, comes down to the final minutes against the number 3 team in the country, they're not going to punish them and drop them 2 spots. Like, that's just not what they do, unfortunately.
Pittsburgh Pantheros saying
Alabama does play Auburn this week, and that's a big game.
Pittsburgh Pantheros saying don't count your chickens just yet. Thank you, Pitt fan, for infiltrating our show here. But he's not wrong, Matt. It's obvious from this that style points this weekend in a very tough situation for Miami, going to that cold weather, playing a Pitt team that's coming off a big win. Style points are going to be a big deal.
Well, you need to look good on film. Style points, I don't know if you're referring to you have to beat them by 30. That's clearly not what they're saying you need to do. They say they look at the film and they want you to look, you know, especially Miami's offense. They have a lot of question marks about Miami's offense. Miami's offense has to look good. They already know the defense is good. If the offense struggles and it's a 10-7 game or a 13-10 game, that's going to be a problem for Miami. It sounds like they really want to see Carson Beck do well against a decent defense.
All right, Greg's been waiting all night for his Matt Shodell moment. So here he is. Welcome back to CaneSport Live, Greg.
Hello, Gregory.
How are you? Okay. Matt, I want to ask you something. If SMU wins, okay, and Virginia and Duke Duke wins and Virginia loses, that'll leave 5 teams with 2 losses for the second spot. Virginia, Duke, Georgia Tech, Pitt, and Miami. Who gets in?
You know, I wish I could follow what you said. Here's what has to happen. The best chance is SMU, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest win. That's the simplest one. The other ones are very complicated. Like Cal has to win, and Virginia, and Wake Forest has to win, and Syracuse has to win, and NC State has to win. The only one that would involve just 3 teams winning would be SMU winning, Virginia Tech winning, and Wake Forest winning, and then Miami's in. But, you know, I couldn't follow all the different scenarios you say with your Texas drawl, so I don't know. But there's a few scenarios. They're all very unlikely.
Greg, center your camera for us.
Yeah. By the way, there's even a scenario where both SMU and Virginia lose, and Miami still doesn't get in. Like, those are real scenarios. Like, it'll be hard for Miami to get in, even with both those teams losing. That's how crazy and hard it's going to be for Miami to get in.
Okay. Does the ACC realize Miami's the only team that could do damage in the playoff? None of these other teams.
That's not how their system works. But yeah, so if
they're the highest ranked team in the ACC.
Don't yell at me. They that's not their system. Miami lost 2 conference games. They don't. The whole system is bad. The whole system is bad because you're right. The best teams in the conferences don't get represented in the playoffs. That's their system, and it's the stupidest thing you ever heard. Who would create a system where the best teams in the conference miss the playoffs and a worse team gets in the playoffs? But that's what the NCAA has created because they're geniuses. They figured out a way to get the worst teams in and the best teams out.
Okay.
So by the way, so if Cal and Virginia Tech, if Cal and Virginia Tech both get upsets of those top 2 teams, then for Miami to be in, they need Syracuse and Wake Forest both to win. Like, that's how ridiculous this is.
That's a freaking joke.
It's ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Wait, Matt, let me ask you a question. I have a question, Matt. Greg, let me steal a little bit of your time here. So I get what you just said, but if you go through this ranking, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, Ole Miss, Oklahoma is the one I'm a little questionable on. Notre Dame, Alabama, like, you get through that top 10, like those aren't shitty teams. Like those teams have legit arguments.
He's asking about the ACC. Miami's the best team in the ACC, and they don't get in.
No. But what I'm saying is the committee has a tough job here because those aren't shitty teams. Like, those are all legit teams that can make a case for being in this playoff.
If they could expand it to 14, if they could expand it to 14, they'd be much better off. They need to do that. I mean,
BYU, I think, is going to take care of itself. I think if they lose Texas Tech, they will not make the playoff. I don't care what they say about conference championship games. You won't be able to justify it. No. Utah already dropped. So, I mean, we'll see, but this is not clear cut and not easy for this committee. I'm not making excuses for them, but they need somebody to lose that's not supposed to lose.
Okay. Can I talk now?
Go ahead, Greg. It's all you, man. It's all about Greg.
Right. I have a question for both of you. Penn State, LSU, Florida, Auburn, and Ole Miss will probably have openings. Do you think Mario Cristobal is on the mind of any of these ADs?
No.
Do you think he would even get a consideration for any of these other jobs?
No.
Why? If he's such a great coach.
I think that they consider, I think that there's nobody that's considering he's leaving Miami. And I think that they're right about that. I don't think Mario's looking to leave Miami.
But why wouldn't they put, to see
if somebody was interested in him, they would contact his agent, but I don't think that they would get a favorable response. I mean, can you imagine if Mario put himself up for, the Ole Miss job right now? Are you kidding me? No.
Okay. I want to give Mario his pre-final grade for the season.
Uh-oh.
I'm giving him an A- for the recruiting class, of the 25 recruiting class. Okay. I'm giving him a B+ for the portal. and I'm giving him a C- for game day coaching. Because go back to the tape from weeks ago when I said there's only one person that can stop us from going to the playoffs, and that is Mario Cristobal, which he did by taking the ball out of Beck's hands and playing conservative football when he had the best team on the field 10 of the 11 games that we played. Many of them by a good margin, playing slow tempo football instead of, when you have the better team, shouldn't you be pressing the issue and trying to score? I don't understand his reasoning. Can you explain that to me?
Matt's flabbergasted.
I'm just proofing the story here. Sorry, say it again.
What are you flabbergasted about? He changed. Something happened after we lost the 2 games to the offense, because it doesn't look anything like it did before. Okay, right. He trusted his overrated run blocking, and it killed us against SMU. Okay, my last point. I got 2 little things for Gary.
Uh-oh.
You said Ruben Bain might be a first-round pick. Every mock draft has him in the top 5. Every single mock draft. I don't know what game you're watching.
You want me to be a homer and politically correct, or do you want me to be honest? And I don't think Ruben's had a great second half of the season. I really don't. Like I think he was one of the best players in college football the first half of the season.
You don't think they ship him?
The lingering image for me, okay, and let's remember, Virginia Tech put up almost 200 yards rushing on the Miami D-line this week. But the lingering image for me is Ruben sitting on the bench up at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee at the end of the Florida State game. They asked him to play 75 reps in that game. He was thoroughly exhausted, and I personally, and I understand it's controversial what I'm saying, but I'm not going to sit here and be scared to give an opinion. I mean, I don't think he's been the same player the second half of the season. Now, is that going to impact his draft stock when they start ranking? I mean, he wasn't nominated for any of the awards at the college football awards. When they came out today, the finalists for all the defensive line awards, it's the Outland Trophy and stuff. He's not one of the finalists for that. There's other good players around the country, Greg, and you know, and when they go to the draft, that those top 32 picks or whatever aren't all going to be defensive linemen. So I don't know where he's going to end up in the pecking order among defensive linemen. I'm just saying I don't believe he has had as good a second half of the season as he has had a first. And when they get into the workouts and such that they'll have and pro day and the private workouts and stuff, he's going to be under the microscope, I believe. And you know, he could obviously very well go in the top 15 picks. I don't think it's a guarantee, and I'm just giving an honest opinion. I don't feel that way.
You're entitled to your opinion,
and I'm not. You know, to me, it is, like I said, he wasn't nominated for the Outland Trophy, or
okay.
You know, I mean, the other guys are being put ahead of him.
All right, but before you made a list of players, you know, going to the draft this year, I think you left one guy out. How about Keontae Scott? That guy is awesome. He played great this year.
He and Thomas are both probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of the 4th round. Somewhere, you know, these things can change. But right now, based on, you know, what I've heard and my research and everything, I would say somewhere around the 4th round, both those guys, which is not terrible for DBs. They're, you know, they've had very good seasons.
Oh, okay. By the way, I'm watching the ACC games, and on most of them, they have, when the ref goes over to the camera and he's talking to the guys in Charlotte, how come they didn't have that in the Virginia Tech the other day?
That's a good question. I was thinking the same thing. I don't know. I
And
don't have any-
when they had Mario called the timeout, and they reviewed it, and then they ran the play, and then they said they stopped the play and said review. What was that crap? How did they get away with this stuff?
Don't know. Don't know.
And by the way, if they didn't call that face mask on Cam Pruitt, we were on our way to a blowout victory. Okay,
I agree.
It was
I
20 to. So, all right, I don't want to hear any excuses about the cold. Okay.
Mental toughness, Greg. They got to have Greg Harlem mental toughness this week.
Yeah. Okay. I played football when I was in my 30s in the snow. I don't want to hear any shit. These guys are making money. They're getting paid a lot of money. Let's see them show up. Led by Mario. Okay. See you later. Have a good
Bye,
week.
Gregory.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show. All right, Matt. We're gonna let you shoot here in a second, but just pull it all together. Closing thoughts as Miami goes to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, look, I think this was a good rankings week for Miami. The worst case scenario would have been they're behind Utah or Vanderbilt. So this is the best we could have expected. They have a chance. We knew it wasn't going to be easy, right? Now we just have to hope there's an upset. People who are relying on a conference title loss for Alabama. Again, I'm just not sure what's going to happen. I think this is the week it has to happen. Like I don't know what the committee does with an Alabama loss to Georgia or something in the SEC title game, and Alabama could also win that game, by the way. So I think this is the week we need something, Auburn to beat Alabama or at least play them real tight. Notre Dame's not going to lose to Stanford, obviously, but maybe, Oklahoma has a little hiccup maybe against LSU. Like, we don't know. Those are probably the games. And then Ole Miss is a wild card just because of their coaching situation, right? If they play very poorly against Mississippi State, then all bets are off. So, this is the week. Like, I know fans think there's 2 weeks left for Miami to move up. To me, there's 1 week because BYU could win its conference title game. There's too much other stuff that can happen. We need to eliminate some of these teams. Michigan has to lose to Ohio State. We need to get some clarity. And if we're 11th going to the conference title games, I'm not optimistic. I want to be 10th. I want to be 10th. And then you're in. If Miami's 10th after next weekend, they're in. They're in. So I take it back. They're not in if BYU wins its conference title game. But they'll at least be in really good shape to be in, because I don't think BYU is going to beat Texas Tech. So that's the key. We got to be, next week we have to be 10th, right? If we're 11th next week, I'm going to say maybe a 30% chance that they get in. So yeah, we got to move a couple of spots. We got to have some upsets this week. And we got to look good against Pitt. Got to look good.
Got to look good against Pitt.
Yeah.
I mean, the
It
style.
doesn't matter how many points you win by. Just look good. They're ranked. You just got to look good, not play terrible, and win. Yeah. All right.
All right, Matt.
Okay.
Thanks for the report. All right. So if anybody else wants to get on tonight, now's the time to pop into the lobby. I'm going to touch on some of these subjects here that are in the chat that are some pretty good points here. JR Barr says that style points matter when you do not have a head-to-head matchup. G-Man, I get it. But I think that, we are maybe disrespecting a little bit how good Notre Dame has played ever since the Texas A&M loss. And I know they haven't played anybody great, but Miami hasn't played, no one's looking at Louisville and SMU as great. We're biased. Let's be honest. We are biased. And, Notre Dame has, as they said tonight, proven that it is a playoff team. And so they haven't, even though they at least they said that they're in the same grouping, which was, that was a positive step forward. The stunning thing to me, and I agree with you, JR, was that they finally put them in the same grouping, and then they made Notre Dame number 1 in that 4-team grouping and Miami number 4. That kind of goes a little bit against what they've been saying. And I'm guessing that they're going to be called into question quite a bit on that here this week. But, anyway, Billy DeLulu, 22 points should be the cap on style points. Billy, I wish you were on the show right now so I can ask you the question because I don't really understand why you think 22 points should be the cap on style points. Notre Dame scored 70 this week. Miami scored in the 30s and they moved up. To me, the line is in the third. I think you got to be in the 30s. If you want to be a top 10 team and you want to be a playoff team and you want to contend for conference championships and you want to contend for the national championship by making the college football playoff, I think you have to score in the 30s. And I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, they're trying to identify the top teams in the country. And, you might have the greatest defense in the world and be able to get by, only scoring in the 20s. Miami certainly did it against Notre Dame. They came just short against SMU and Louisville. But if you want to be impressive, I think, you have to consistently be in the 30s. Blue Green Street says the chair called out Carson Beck for playing well. He's got to keep playing well. For whatever reason, and I don't have an explanation for this, but Carson Beck is being put under the microscope. And, he's the quarterback for Miami, but I wouldn't say that Carson Beck should be the focal point of this team. I think the defense should be the focal point of this team. I think that being able to run the ball and throw the ball equally well over the course of the season should be a focal point for this team. I'm not sure that Carson Beck should be the focal point that they're making him. So it's really interesting watching this play out. Mr. Mezu, that SMU loss was big. Miami should have taken that game a lot more seriously, let the OC coach at his best. Mesu, I don't think that taking the game seriously was an issue. I felt that they were not ready to play against Louisville. Okay, that's the one that I didn't feel they took seriously enough, and that they didn't show up ready to play that game. And I remember, seeing it in the pregame warmups, and I went upstairs and I said to Matt, I said, man, there wasn't a lot of excitement there. There was no spark there. I don't understand. These guys do not look ready to play this game to me. This is the God honest truth. This was before the game even started. And they just, they were missing it that night. I don't think they were missing it against SMU. I just think everything added up. The officiating was really a big deal in that game. And Rhett Lashley, God, give him credit. He did a good job. When JoJo Trader dropped that ball and it gets intercepted, giving SMU the ball in Miami territory, Rhett Lashley had a play ready to go in his back pocket for that situation. They scored on the very next play. And that's what SMU did a really good job of. They had a handful. They couldn't match up with Miami. Let's be honest. Those two teams could play 10 times. Miami's winning 8 out of 10. There's no doubt in my mind. But Rhett Lashley knew, and his whole game plan was predicated on the idea that if he could keep that game close and be within one score, he never wanted to let Miami get more than one score ahead. He wanted to be in the game in the fourth quarter. He felt if he could do that he could find a way to win the game. And, lo and behold, man, they got all the breaks, they got all the officiating calls, and, overtime, Miami, JoJo Trader gets tackled in the end zone. It doesn't get called. Beck forces the ball. It gets intercepted. And then SMU goes and scores and wins. I mean, that was a razor-tight football game. But it was a case of Rhett Lashley having a really good plan for that game and having it work. I mean, you have to sometimes, like I've been saying, you have to give people credit when credit is due. Why are media pundits and the committee ignoring the tiebreakers? I mean, I think there's still games to be played. I don't think they have to be consumed with tiebreakers until the very end. they're not at the final ranking yet. CFP tiebreaker rules clarify that margin of victory is not to be a factor in evaluations of common opponents. Why are people still talking about eye test and style points? Because it's a beauty pageant now. Rules, fine. Guidelines, fine. They're throwing them out. Okay. They put Miami and Notre Dame in the same grouping today, and they threw out their protocols. Okay. They ranked Notre Dame 1, Miami 4 in that grouping. You can't make, you're not going to make sense of it. I mean, these are arbitrary judgment calls that they are making. And it is what it is. I mean, there's nothing anybody can do about it. We can bitch and moan, whatever. These people are deciding who's in the playoff. And there's going to be teams in this mix that are not happy because there's more teams in the mix than are going to get in. I mean, and it is what it is. Cromek says Ruben Bain needs to make a statement on Saturday. Yeah, we talked about that a few minutes ago. Totally agree. I mean, he's got to step up. I mean, he hasn't been the same the last several weeks. And God, I mean, I know it ruffles feathers to say that, but it's the God honest truth. Time to show up and prove you belong without question. Same deal, man. Eye test. It matters. Style points, they matter. Whether like it, not like it, think it's wrong, thinks it goes against the protocol. It is going to be a factor here, most likely in the final rankings. We talked about this early in the show. Parity is an admission that the Canes are not elite. I agree with that. And there was parity at the top of the ACC this year. And I believe it goes back to not having enough elite players. When you don't have elite players, they're going to make the difference in those close games. It brings you back to the pack. And you're going to be in those 4 or 5 life or death battles every single season, as we have been in going back 15 years, or more here at Miami under multiple head coaches. Okay. We have always been in these types of ACC seasons. No matter how good we think our team was. Look at last year with Cam Ward. What happened? Syracuse happened. Georgia Tech happened. Virginia Tech happened. Cal happened. We had more life or death games last year with the best offense in the country and Cam Ward than we've had this year. This happens every single season. Miami has to continue. They did a better job recruiting. This was Mario's best year of recruiting, in my opinion. And they got to keep the standard of talent evaluation up that they had this past year, and they will stay on the trajectory that they're on. But Miami doesn't have significantly more elite talent than these other top 6 or so teams in the ACC, and it's being proven on the field. It's like if the talent was so much better as we like to think it is, then it wouldn't be showing up on the field the way it is. I mean, with all these close games. And that's just a fact. And I know I know it ruffles feathers. I know it's hard to accept. But, it is being proven. And, Dirty Cane thing, be honest, the ACC, you got to show up, man. You have got to show up. And you can't take weeks off. And you might be the best team. And there's nobody that doesn't believe that Miami's not the best team in the ACC this year. But they did not show up all 12 weeks. Okay? They didn't show up against SMU. They didn't show up against Louisville. Okay? And they got caught. Might have been a lot of other things that contributed to it, but got caught. Didn't show up. Miami's best team in the country. They've literally played 6 rivalry games. I mean, I'm not sure that that's an argument that you can stand behind. I'm certainly not going to try to stand behind that. Ian Killian again pointing out, like we talked about earlier, Bain only has 3 sacks. That's unreal. Yeah, it is unreal. I mean, this is a guy that early in the season, after the first couple games, was being spoken about as the best defensive player in college football. Had to get more this year out of Ruben Bain. And they got to get it out of him on Saturday, man. Ruben, I hope you are watching. Please, you have got to raise your level back up. You're capable of it. Has there been some self-preservation going on? I mean, he's being called a top 10 NFL pick. I mean, wouldn't that get to anybody's head? I do not want to get hurt. Listen, he cut it loose in that Florida State game. Okay, like I talked about. And that is the lasting image for me of Ruben Bain this season, was how exhausted he was at the end of the Florida State game. And I don't believe that we've seen the same player since then. And, maybe there is a little bit in the back of his mind, self-preservation. I've proven myself. I'm going to be a top pick in the NFL draft. I do not want to get hurt. I don't want, I'm staring at a $30 million future here or more. I don't want to mess that up by getting hurt. Not out of the question. Would you blame him? I mean, we may not like it as may not like it as fans, or that, you're not getting the best out of your best defensive player, but like, you couldn't knock him if it's in somewhere in his head that he has solidified. He's solidified his standing. NFL scouts know he's been getting doubled and his super high pressures all year long. Yeah, he's been doubled some. He's been held some. So is Mesidor. Okay, Mesidor's got 7 sacks. Mesidor's had an unbelievable season. I would argue that Mesidor's had a better season than Ruben Bain. Now, Sean Andrews is saying projected 19th to 21st. The problem that Mesidor has is he's a little bit of a tweener. Okay. And they get into heavy measurables after, his tape is going to be phenomenal. They're going to love his tape. But, his measurables is not prototypical NFL defensive end. And that could be a factor. And he could drop to the second round or even the third. But his tape is going to get him into at least that level, I would think. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I'm just laughing. Somebody's impersonating me in the chat and says he wants to do an exclusive interview on the show. Why do ACC teams lay down against Notre Dame? I think that they're not as good. I mean, Notre Dame is good. I mean, Notre Dame played in the national title game last year. Miami certainly did a good job against them on opening night, but they're a good team. It's not easy to look good against Notre Dame for all these teams in the ACC. And the one that really bothered me was Pitt. Okay, because Pitt should have had a good enough team to challenge Notre Dame. And when your coach in the middle of the week starts saying he doesn't care about the game, and all he cares about is the ACC games, and then sends his team out to play Notre Dame at home in a packed stadium, and you've already told your team this game doesn't matter. What are you going to expect? What was the probability that they would play their best game? I don't know, man, but definitely agree with this. You better bring your game every week in the ACC. One of the worst teams is Alabama. That's in the playoff. Well, I'll just ad lib a little bit on this one. Alabama's got the worst loss for sure. Florida State. Okay, that's a horrible loss. But they have 4 wins against top 25 teams. I mean, they have redeemed themselves from that bad opening night in Tallahassee. I mean, let's be honest. Again, we're biased, okay? And we're sitting there saying, you lost to Florida State. You don't belong in the playoff. They're saying, who else in the country has beaten 4 top 25 teams? The answer is nobody, okay? So Alabama has earned their place in the ranking, and I don't know that that'll change if they beat Auburn. I mean, I think if they beat Auburn, they are going to be in this playoff. I love the people that are predicting that Syracuse on purpose took a dive against Notre Dame just to hurt Miami. They were playing without a quarterback. I mean, they had no hope. I don't know. Mario on the sideline with a play sheet. I don't believe that this has anything to do with anything. I think Mario always has a play sheet. I don't think that there was any special special thing there at all. Stop putting Jordan Lyle in the portal. Listen, I'm not saying I'm just saying he hasn't played the last 2 weeks. Why? Okay, he's not on the injury list. Okay, so if you're not playing him and he was your number one back going into the season and he's healthy now, and I understand you probably can't pay 5-6 running backs in this age of NIL. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together, and I'm saying maybe he's going into the portal. I'm not saying he's definitely going into the portal. We do not know that, in either direction. I'm just saying that, it's a possibility. It's reading the tea leaves that he might go in the portal. Fire Marine Kane here. Mario needs to get at Dawson's way. Let him call the offense as he sees fit. I do believe Mario was dictating the running game commitment earlier in the season. I don't know that he's in Shannon Dawson's way as much as people want to believe. Mario's not trying to hold his coordinators back. He's a coordinator's head. He likes to let his coordinators coach. He lets them call the game. He doesn't try to call the game on game day. But I do think that they overestimated this offensive line as run blockers. And I do think they over-relied on the running game at times over the course of the season. And I think I'm not going to say they've gotten away from it, because up there at Virginia Tech last week, they ran the ball 30 times. I think they passed it 32. Let me just double check that. Yeah, 32. So they had 32 passes, 30 runs. That's not getting away from the running game. But I think that they've expanded it a little bit. We're not sitting here every week saying, why are they running every single down in the A and B gap? It's a lot more. We've seen a lot more outside runs. I think Pringle has brought a new look to that situation. And, but I don't think it's so fair. I think it's a little bit overplayed. The whole thing about Mario meddling with Shannon Dawson. I mean, Shannon Dawson, to me, he's good. He's an offensive coordinator, but he needs to be great to be the offensive coordinator at Miami. And there's a lot of lapses. You look at the Syracuse game last year, you're up by 3 touchdowns. He's doing a great, phenomenal job. And then you give up a 21-point lead and the offense sputters the rest of the year. These are the things that are happening. We've seen it this year. How do you get into a fourth quarter in Tallahassee and get outgained 177-15, outscored 19-0? How does that happen? And these are things that we're seeing kind of as a pattern, which suggests that there's something wrong being done. And I would just like to see that get figured out here. I mean, it's too late for this season, and hopefully it doesn't end up costing them a berth in the playoff. But I would like to see that. That to me is the biggest thing they got to figure out going into the off season, is why is that happening? And I don't have an answer for that. All right. Well, I think we've covered just about every topic there is to be covered on tonight's show. I thank all of you guys for watching. I hope you got some good insight into the rankings, and we'll see, man. Big game, obviously, on Saturday up at Pittsburgh, and the Canes got to show up mentally tough. They can't be bothered by the weather, and they got to put 4 quarters together on offense. I don't think there's any question about it. Program note, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, same time, we will have a Lamar Thomas show. So I hope all you guys will come back tomorrow night and join us on a pre-Thanksgiving Day Lamar Thomas show. And I don't know yet who our special guest is going to be tomorrow, but it's always somebody good and entertaining. So I want to thank Matt Shodell. I want to thank everybody who participated tonight, both live on camera and in the chat. Hope to see a bunch of you guys up at Pittsburgh this weekend. Just make sure you dress warm, man. We'll be a little chilled up there, but should be a lot of fun. So for everyone, thanks for being a part of the show tonight. We'll see you next time, everybody.